Right, as you can see from the screen up there, our next speaker is John Oliver. John has been involved in the building industry for over 40 years. During that time he has been an architectural designer, a building inspector, contracts manager and a technical representative. He now operates as a brick consultant, and in 2000 he wrote the book Brick Book. John will talk about recent changes in the brick industry and the importance of good detailing and specification, an example, the quality or lack of that some homeowners can expect from their brick veneer installation, and an important case study that we can all learn from. As you can see there's a special deal today. You can buy the 2014 edition of John's Brick Book, normally $49.95, but today $25 cash or $30 on credit card. Please approach John after the meeting if you'd like to purchase one of those. At the conclusion of John's Brick Talk, he will spend a few minutes talking about a recent innovation he has invented, I guess, for the building industry, which solves a lot of problems. Please welcome John by putting your hands together.
Thanks, Darren. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's been a little while since I've given a presentation, so I'm probably a little on the rusty side. As a brick consultant, and I've been a brick consultant for pretty close to 10 years now, I do things like peer review detailing, advise on what you can and can't do specifications, project manage jobs, which is just so important. And as far as brickwork is concerned, you can be the best designers or the best architects in the world, but if the guy putting it up doesn't have the right attitudes, it just ruins it. It completely ruins it. It's very difficult to cover a subject like I'm going to talk about in 45 minutes. I've got about 70 slides to work through in that time. So it is an overview, and I just thought of things that might appeal to you. The case study at the end is really important because it just brings home to you the messages that I'm trying to convey here. But generally speaking, I've done stage 1 and stage 2 presentations, and you're talking 8 hours of talking on brick, so if you just bear that in mind. Right, let's kick it off. These are the basic guides. Hopefully you all know that 3604 no longer has brick veneer and as a cladding. They have removed that from there, and they have put it into the building code as E2AS1 masonry. Has everyone read that? Everyone read it? Because you're designing to it and you're signing off to say it complies with that. I can tell you absolutely categorically that 95% of all bricklayers would have never read it. In fact, if I said to them, what's E2AS1, they'd probably say it's something out of Star Wars. But they're signing their name to say it complies with this document they're supposed to be building to, okay? Part of that document is 4210, which is the material and workmanship standard, is incorporated within that. And of course, alternative solutions to the above, which I will touch on a bit further on. When you look at these solutions like E2AS1, as you're probably well aware, it's a defined thing. There's no does it meet or doesn't it meet, or does it nearly meet it, or can I do this? It's the same sort of thing. I just cast my mind back to an architect mate of mine who said in Auckland Council and said, "Where's my approval for this particular detail?" And the guy behind the counter said, "No, it doesn't apply with E2." And he says, "Yes, it does. It's got 100 mil upstand." He says, "No, you only need 75." That is what you're dealing with. That's reality, and I'm sure many people in this room have experienced that. Okay. What's also really important, and is just really lacking in the industry, is really good bricklaying specifications. These housing companies out there, some of them got half a page on bricks. My specification that I do on a job-by-job basis is about 6 pages long on bricks, because there's so many things you need to be aware of, and it's not until, as we all know, it hits the fan, that's when people start sort of reading things, So it's so important to have a really good specification. And one of the aspects of that specification is the mortar quality. You know, you can have the best designed house in the world, the bricklayer can lay it perfectly to the codes and all that sort of stuff, but if the mortar quality is not good, it's a glue that holds it all together. So that's critical, and that should be really looked into in the specification. Has everyone seen that document? New guidance to tolerances came out in 2015. Do you all know about that? Okay. That's exactly what it's about. I mean, it's all done by stealth, or seems to be done by stealth in Wellington. They drop these things out in the marketplace, and this is what it looks like. You should go to the web and download it and get a copy of that. What that basically is, guys, is the default specification. So if you aren't specifying something...
John, is it a compliance document? Because guidance things are usually not.
Well, I don't think so, to be absolutely sure, but when it, as I said earlier, hits a fan and people are arguing about things, they start pulling that sort of document out. Okay, and I'm just going to give you that example. If you do not have a really good specification, it covers everything. This is the fallback, okay? Now, to give you a simple example of what I'm talking about, this document, when they put this document together, what did they do? They went to the brick industry and said, what would you like to have in this document? Then they went to the Bricklaying Association and said, what would you like to have in this document? Basically, okay, needless to say, they want to make it as easy for them as they possibly can. They didn't go to the designers or the architects or the builders and say, what do you want in this document? And as a result of that, they adopted an American standard. Now, if you look at that, the American standard basically says that if you've got a problem with the brick veneer, you should be viewing it from 6.1 metres away. Well, you just about need a telescope, wouldn't you? I mean, it looks pretty good from here. So the level of the brickwork drops. They're not doing themselves any favours here as a cladding for the industry. Okay? Then they start trying to define what a chip is. Can you imagine trying to define what a chip is on a brick? It's either good or it's either acceptable or it isn't acceptable. You know, if you've got a rustic type brick, it's got cracks and chips, and that's what a rustic brick is, as opposed to a smooth faced brick with nice sharp edges. You know, what's acceptable there and isn't acceptable is a lot different. So you've got these sorts of issues. This is why you need a good specification. If you're designing to E2 AS1 masonry, as I just said, you have to do that. Anything that you want to change from that, you need an alternative solution in writing. Okay? So something that doesn't meet, I tell you, there's lots of stuff in that document that I disagree with. Stupid. Some of the stuff's stupid. But unfortunately, we're stuck with it. Right. I've covered the next thing is the two-storey brick systems. Okay, I developed the systems in this country starting in '95 and progressively improved them. In 2010, I got approached by the Clay Brick and Paver Manufacturers Association and said, "Can you do a document for our members?" That's quite important. And I did this document, and each time we did the document, two-storey systems, we learnt from what we'd done. Brands had done tests and all sorts of things like that. And so it got easier and easier to build two-storey houses. Like we did away with shelf angles, we did away with slip joints, all that sort of thing. That's the document there, and you can download that off their website, okay? It's about 26 pages long. And if you're doing a two-storey brick house, you need to read that document. You also need to find out whose brick they're going to put on that house. Because if that company that is supplying the brick is not a member of that association, it's non-compliant. Okay, so that's why it's important. And sometimes these companies pull out of these organisations and then join them later, and you know what it's like. So reading that document, it's a fairly, when I do documents like this, I try to make them as simple as I can for people. You know, you start something like this and you think I'm going to make it 10 pages long. Well, before you know it, it's 26 pages long because you're trying to cover all the bases. But it does. My brick book, well, I'll just say a couple of things about this. This is the third edition of this book. It's been very successful. It's used by heaps of people in the industry. The last time I did it was 2006. So there was an 8-year period where nothing happened. There was lots of changes in the industry in that 8 years' time, you know, and one of those being, of course, coming out of 3604 and going into E2. It was just one of those things. Companies like Veneer no longer exist now. They don't make bricks in Newland now. It's all Australian imports. So some of that is covered in this book. There's about, if you've got the old copies of the book, that's great. Who's got the new copy of this book? Can you put your hand up, just so I know? Well, pretty poor, isn't it? 5 people in this room that have got this book. And this has got all the information that you need in here. There's 4 new chapters in it. Probably added, forget now, 10 or 20 extra drawings that gone into there. And I guess you can consider it, or some people consider it, the Bible of building and brick in this country. And as Darren mentioned, you've got an opportunity tonight to buy it for half price, okay? Common design issues. Right, the first thing you need to be doing is making sure that you're specifying on your plan what that product is. Is it clay brick? Is it concrete brick? Simple reason why, what is it?
Shrinkage.
Control joints. Same thing, okay? Control joints. And the control joints need to be clearly marked on the plans. You know, you just don't leave it hanging in mid-air somewhere and put something on the plan, put control joints in. You need to be defining where they are with a dotted line of some description. Just on a side issue to that, I heard just a week ago, Firth have brought out a new concrete brick. I don't know whether this is true, it came from a really good source, that they are drilling holes in it. And they're telling people they don't need control joints. My God, that's dangerous. It's a concrete product. They call for control joints in their 90mm blocks, for God's sake. It should, and the code calls for it, of course, control joints, and apparently they're not asking for it. But that's a really real dangerous thing to do, in my opinion, okay? Sills. You've got to specify your sills as sloping minimum 15 degrees. It's absolute nonsense, of course. It doesn't matter whether the sill's overhanging, dead flat, whatever. It will make absolutely no difference to the weather tightness of that building. The flashings around sills, including the one support bar, is amazing, you know. And I could tell you the history about that, but it's just people doing things that they don't know what they're doing. But that's what it is. So when I go to a complaint, I'm going around measuring the sills. Okay, there's 10 sills there, or 3 sills there, they've got 10 degrees on them. This building doesn't apply with acceptable solution. You need an alternative solution in writing. So if you haven't got it in writing, it's 10 years down the track. Oh, who said that? So this is how ridiculous it gets, of course. The veneer between the windows, minimum 230. How often do we see 150 or whatever? Nothing wrong with that, really. I mean, this is people doing things in standards that not really up to the play in a lot of cases, okay? Like, for example, it's all about piers falling off buildings in an earthquake. That's what it's about, okay? Generally, that's what it's about. Surely, the smaller the veneer, smaller the piece, the lighter it is, the less weight it is, you know? But I can tell you categorically that brick performs the best in any earthquake, absolutely. Modern veneers are phenomenal in earthquakes. And that's coming from someone who spent 6 months in Christchurch looking at 800 houses, okay? Did you know you're not allowed to put metal head flashings on these veneers? Did you know that? You know? No? It's an E2, AS1 masonry, the solution. Brands spend 15 years converting everyone to put metal head flashings in. Then when the people from MEBI do this building code, they leave metal head flashings off. So it becomes an alternative solution. So that means you've got to pay someone like me probably to give you an alternative solution. That's why it costs so much to build in this country. Jam flashings. In the jam flashing detail in E2, they don't show the width of the flashing. It looks like about 100 mils, which is totally inadequate. It needs to be 200, and they show it hard, flat against the wrap. So any moisture that gets blown there just tracks along the wrap instead of having a kick out. So certainly want to although it's contrary to what I just said to you a second ago, for God's sake, put kickouts in and do a 200. Lintels incorrectly designed. How common is that? You know, the simple rules are this: if you're going to put lintels in the traditional manner, it's the piece of metal that goes across heads of windows or doors. If you're going to put it in the traditional manner, it spans from one side to the other. It doesn't touch the frame in any shape or form. And it sits in the brickwork, 20 mils back from the face, so you don't see the seal. And it's independent to the structure. If you've got a, if that is fixed to the frame, which I see all the time, the frame moves fractionally, might be 1 or 2 mils. Steel goes with it, cracks the brickwork. Okay. If you're going to screw fix it to the timber lintel or whatever's behind there, specific design, of course, because it's outside the solution, and you need to be leaving 5 mil gap at each end so that it's got that movement and doesn't interfere with the brickwork. Oh, here's a simple example. There's a house down Watawata where the lintel's just sitting out proud. It's a pretty bad job there. If you look closely, you'll see a stepped crack going up that wall because there's no control joint in there. And I might just add, you would not believe I didn't see one control joint in all the concrete brick houses I saw in Christchurch, the older ones, you know, I'm talking about prior 1996, and they had stepped crackers. They'd all had control joints. Damage there would have been a lot less. Cavity width, for God's sake, put the cavity width on the thing, on the plans. 45 to 50 mils is ideal. You want to keep it close to the frame. You want to allow for a rigid air barrier. You want to allow for maybe a bracing panel of some sort, ply. That's what you do. And of course it does fluctuate, gives you some tolerance. If you're within a killie of water, for God's sake, look at the distance to the water, 500 metres I think it is, isn't it, for stainless steel. And with brick that's really important because it's your brick ties. When I'm looking at plans from people, they never seem to put the dimensions on for the height of the brickwork. Well, that's quite important, you know, particularly on gables. So just simple stuff like that is important, certainly in two-storey work in particular. What have I got here? Yeah. If you're doing a two-storey system, you need to be putting the system on. So if you're using first concrete brick system, that's what you need to be putting on the plan. You absolutely need to be making sure the studs are at 400 centres. And the only reason you do that is, the only reason we changed from a 600 centre to a 400 centre was to throw some more insurance at it by the way of additional brick ties. So instead of having like 6 or 7 ties to the square metre, you might be getting 9 to 10 ties to the square metre. The holding power of those ties is just unbelievable. Yeah, and the acceptable solution only covers concrete or clay bricks. That's all it covers. Does not cover things like Hinawera stone, Oamaru stone, anything like that. A specific design. I have actually done a specific design for Hinawera stone, so that's covered. But you just need to be aware of that. Yeah, I've just said here, repeating myself a little bit. Ensure alternative solutions are provided. That's really important. And I can help you there if you need that help, okay? If you're going to plaster brickwork, nothing wrong with that, my advice to you is to use thin bed plasters, you know, like a 5 to 7 mil polymer plaster system. They're very strong, something like Rock Coat or Dulux Acrotec, something like that. This house here is a classic example of what I have been talking about. That's a big home right on Mount Pleasant in Christchurch. Going to be plastered. The owner was not happy with the mortar quality on this. He says it looks too soft to him. Complained to the council. They came out. I said, oh no, it's okay. Then he tells them afterwards, he's getting me down there. Well, I trained these guys. Oh, I better put a stop work on it. So that's what they did. I went down there and this house was beautifully laid up. That's a tragedy of it. You know, the bricklayer made a really good job of it. But within 5 minutes of walking on that site, I had to say, pull it all down. It's dangerous. $35,000. I said, think yourself lucky you got me now, because if you had plastered it probably would have been closer to $100,000, you know. And that's the house there plastered, and that was after the first earthquake. Not one crack in it. It was right underneath the second earthquake, it was right underneath it, had some quite big cracks in it, but nothing dangerous, okay, nothing fell off. That's my house there. Well, the house I used to own, I've sold it. That was one of the first ones done with two-storey brickwork, and that's got a Dulux Acrotex coating on it. That's 14 years old and still in really good nick. It had windowless, steelless lintels across the windows. If you haven't used steelless lintels, you can save yourself and your clients a lot of money. Just read about it in the two-storey system. So you do away with all the steel. Might save you $3,000 on a house. If you're doing a bomb beam, if you've got this type of scenario where you've got a concrete block base with bricks on it, just be aware you need to be putting a membrane flashing in here now, because we couldn't rely on builders to smooth plaster this and flint coat it properly. Just couldn't rely on them. And any water coming down on the inside of the brickwork was coming down to holes that are in the concrete. That's how you get all that stuff in the garage and basement areas. This is the sort of thing that you don't see, plaster brickwork, and this is what was happening in the industry. Do you think it's going to crack? Do you think the plaster's going to crack? And when that happens, it's, whose fault's that? It must be the plasterer, because you can't see this, okay? Doing plaster brickwork is as important to do it to face brick as what it is if it's not being plastered, okay? Because it's only as good as the foundation, and that tells you exactly what the issues are out there. All that's doing is giving brick a bad name. Look at the bond strength of that mortar. Not great, is it? I could talk about bricks as far as design goes, probably for 2 to 4 hours without running out of information. I don't have that time. How often do I hear that from designers or architects or whatever? Brick is boring, my standard response is, okay? Look, we all love that old brickwork, don't we? The red and the buff brick, look, the stuff just up the road here in Parnell, built in 1910, just fabulous stuff. And what have we got today? We've got at least 10 different size bricks, from little ones to big ones. We've got literally dozens of colours. We've got at least 4 finishes, right from smooth through to a rumble brick. And being a cladding, you have less restrictions on you than if it was a structural element, so to speak. I mean, I've just come back from 8 weeks in the UK, and my God, some of the brickwork I saw there is just unbelievable. Sure, might be old, yes, it was structural, but you can still gain the same sort of look in a veneer, or just about, okay? The thing about brick is it's low maintenance, durable, quality, weathertight, economic and timeless and exciting. It is an exciting product. This is a house that I built in 1996. It's at 173 Long Drive in St Heliers, okay? It was designed by Paul Eben, an architect. Now look at that house, that's simplicity, It's just a golden buff 70 brick, and it is a standard red or smooth red 90 brick. So I've cool bowed the soldier courses out 20 mils, the 90s going round. The back of that's pretty high, as you can see. All these studs, this is the first one done with a 2-storey system. That was all at 600 centres. Look at round the windows, a picture frame with 90mm snap headers stacked on top of each other. The face of the staircase has been done in slips, and it's a herringbone type pattern. I was there just a month or two ago, and to take some photographs, and I'll tell you, it looked as good as the day I put it up. It really did. Apart from, and I knew there hadn't been any maintenance done in this house because the spouting on that veranda hanging out was all rusting to hell, and the owners, people just don't do anything. But this house still looked fantastic. This is a school at Botany by Jazzmax. How simple is that? 4 different colour bricks, just looks really, really great, okay? So no excuse for that. I'd love to show you 100 examples, but I just don't have that time. This is just something I saw in Sydney last time I was there, where it's on a commercial building, obviously, and they've just sticked all that out. You can do that sort of stuff. And this is really pushing the envelope. This is one of Frank, can I say that, Gehry's building. He's the guy that designed the Glutenheim, I've probably got that wrong, in Bilbao Museum, and I've been to that building actually. And this photo here doesn't do it justice, okay? You really need to go and see it, but it's unbelievable what they've done there. The sort of thing that happens in reality is this. I've just put two questions here. How does the cladding interact with the supporting structure? What sort of things do you come across there? And where does the water go? Okay, two really important questions. This is on a two-storied house on the North Shore, all right? I was called out there by the owners because they weren't happy with some of the issues of the brickwork. And when I got up there, it looked pretty good to me, brickwork. They were Asian bricklayers, not that has a big bearing on it, but it looked quite good. Then I looked down the cavity and this is what I saw. Every screw on that house had not been put in properly. So in an earthquake, absolutely hopeless. So that was a demolish, start again. Lintels, this is the sort of thing I've just been talking about. The lintel bar there is fixed to the frame. The brickwork was cracking. The one below there, you can see what a shocking job that. How would you like that on your house? Appalling. Where does the water go? This is going to be part of the case study I'll show you in a minute. Okay, the water's going through the bricks, running down the angle. Hey, bang, hits the end. What happens here? This sort of thing, mortar on brick ties. That's just acting as a bridge to transfer moisture from the inside of the bricks across that mortar onto the frame. This is why project management is so important, because you can't rely on these. Any ideas what's happened here, guys? This is on a flash house at Te Abatu on the waterfront. Any ideas? Very good. Why is that? Possibly. My guess is they never cleaned the back of the bricks properly and there's dust on it and they put the glue on or used the wrong adhesive and the adhesives failed.
I did the reclad on it.
You did the reclad on it, did you? Is it still there? Okay. I mean, that's just a bad advertisement for brick, all right? This is a case study I wanted to show you. It's probably one of the, I have to say, it's probably one, I've seen a lot of bad jobs. This would be one of the worst, okay? It was a year after I'd finished with Veneer as technical manager, and I got this ring from this guy out Weymouth, okay? And he sounded sick on the phone, this guy, and it turned out he was quite ill. And he just had this new home built. His wife had breast cancer, so they weren't in great shape, these people. And this is what they got lumbered with, okay? This was the 6th of December that I got this call, right on Christmas, okay? It's a two-storey dwelling using the Mortar brick system at the time, because bear in mind it's 2007, so it's 9 years ago. Approximately 15,000 bricks, big house, 350 square metres. The code compliance certificate had been approved by the TA, which was Manukau at the time, all right? Constructed by a well-known housing company, and I'll give you a clue, it begins with S. There's about 3 of those, okay? And from the road, it didn't look too bad. You know, you're thinking, you drive out there, you think, you know, what's he moaning about, you know? That's what it looks like from the back. This is right on the water, okay? Really close. Right, there was 2 areas of concern for me. Poor workmanship, not conforming to the job specification, not meeting good accepted trade practices. Then there was the non-complying issues, which affects the code compliance, of course, with the New Zealand Building Code and New Zealand Standards, the compliance with that, with the Mortar Design Note C1, which was the 2-storey system I had going at the time, with compliance with the brands appraisal, the Mortar technical specifications, all part of all that. And this is the sort of thing I'm talking about, okay? We start off here, this is cleaning. This is how they left this poor guy's house. You'll see that the bricks look a different colour. That's just me fiddling with it on the computer, okay? But the bricks are all the same colour. But this is how they left this house in this condition. Absolutely appalling. The mortar joints, there was approximately 25% of the mortar joints were non-compliant on this house. They were less than 7 mils, and you can see just in that photograph there are less than blimmin' 4 mils on this house. The maximum rate, does anyone know what the maximum rate should be on a brick? The depth of rake?
3 mil. 3 mil?
No one said it. 6 mils. Still got to have 15 mil cover on the end of the tie. 6 mils. This had 9. 50% more. Mortar joints not tooled, you've got to have them tooled smooth. This is why you've got to have them in the spec, okay? Variation in the size and colour of the mortar joints. You know, look at that. It's pretty grim, isn't it? You know? all over the place. The code calls for fully bedded joints, that's perpen joints and bed joints. And the reason for that is pretty simple, it's to do with earthquakes, and you want that brick veneer to perform as a panel in an earthquake, alright? It's not going to perform in a panel like this. You invariably find 1 or 2 holes on a veneer anywhere. This is covered in holes, okay? So there, look at that. How would you like that on your house, okay? Question. How many bricks on this dwelling have been laid using fully bedded mortar joints? I'd say about 5% at a guess. Okay? What is the strength of the mortar used? That was another unknown to me at the time, okay? Exposed brick ties. You see at the bottom of that arrow here on the left, you can see a metal tie sticking out. It should have 15 mils of cover, so what's that tell me? It tells me the cavity is probably about 10 mils or something like that. And there's one above it as well. Then you look at the side here, and it's 20 to 25 mils off the foundation. Once again, what's happened there? This is the way they did the brick sills, guys. How would you like that? You know, the top left there, that would have to be one of the thinnest pieces of brick I've ever seen in my life. How anyone could do that and walk away from this expensive home and think that that was acceptable is beyond me. Okay, but this is what you're up against. And the sills are all got different slopes, different overhangs, no consistency there whatsoever. Okay? The only consistency I can say with this bricklayer is he did the same at the top. Okay, so the window heads match the sills, alright? And there's a pretty big gap there at the end of the steel, okay, about 30 mils, something like that. Just atrocious. There's another pretty thin piece of brick. This is why when I do specifications it covers all those issues, you know. They've got to be evenly spaced, the bricks have got to be of an even size or acceptable even size, things like that just don't get mentioned. And as far as master spec goes, I really don't have a lot of time for master spec. I can only speak from a brick perspective, nothing else. Their specification just too general, too generic. You know, you can shoot holes all the way through it. It tells you nothing really. That's what I think. And I think there's probably some information there that's not quite accurate either. No ventilation in the veneer at the top. No gaps at the top. So any movement, it's going to put pressure on the bricks. This is when we had slip joints. We've done away with slip joints. Okay. So you can see the piece of polythene sitting out there, can't you? That they've used. And here, and also in this particular area. There's step cracking. You probably have to look a little bit hard to see it in those photographs, but when you get step cracking to this degree, there's only one solution, it's pull that area down and redo it. Shelf angle, the installation doesn't comply with the Monia specification, non-compliant. Wrong size angle, incorrect fixings, incorrect flashing materials, does not meet E2. Why doesn't it meet E2? There's not a gap underneath the angle, 35mm gap under the angle, okay? Here's the same applied with the back terrace here. The specification called for 75mm gap under the angle, E2 is 35mm, the actual on site was 20 to 25mm. And also step cracking at the back. Removal of moisture, that was the photograph I showed you earlier. No way of getting the moisture out from behind the veneer. This is what you'd use, guys. It's called a Gerard stop end or an RDX box. You'll probably know that, do you? They have left and right hand ones that goes into the cavity. It picks up the water as it's coming down the angle or flashing or whatever you got there, picks it up in that box and directs it out into the guttering system. This is what you need. Okay. If you don't do that, some of these cowboys are making up their own ones. You know, like bending a bit of metal and doing something like this. You know, and it never is great. It was this, believe it or not, this was 25mm out of plumb over 1800 level. An 1800 level, 25mm out of plumb. The only thing I could put it down to is someone hit the frame with a sledgehammer for some reason. To summarise it, workmanship, poor cleaning, irregular mortar joints, variation of mortar colour, unacceptable window sills, unacceptable window and door heads, poor installation of the slip joint, compliance issues. This is why it didn't comply, that the council had issued a code compliance on and we're about to post it. Luckily I picked the phone up and said, don't send that out. There's lots of issues here. I hadn't summarised all the issues, but I knew straight away there was lots of issues. Don't send it out, because if you send that out, my client's going to have to pay the final $27,000 to the builder. So thank God I did that, because they didn't send it out. Okay, compliance issues. Mortar joints less than the minimum, 7 mils. Mortar joints rate too deep. Joints not tooled. Bricks not fully bedded. Loose bricks. Brick tie installation in question. Shelf angles the wrong size. Fixings incorrect. Installation of the shelf angles incorrect. Shelf angle flashings incorrect. Lintels not full width of opening. Veneer not ventilated correctly. Loose bricks in the veneer. Step cracking of the veneer. Issues that concern me, but didn't fall into the other categories. The strength of the mortar concerned me, and quality. Durability of the shelf angle, because it was right on the water, and the lintels. Cavity width concerned me. I couldn't really measure that too well. Installation of the brick ties, I couldn't see that. Installation of the brick slip. Recommendation that this 2-storey brick veneer be completely removed and reinstated. Anyone want to have a guess? How much do you think that cost? I'm talking 9 years ago, don't forget. No, it wasn't quite that high. 100 grand. That was my estimate. Okay. And these are the bricks they took off. They took these bricks off in a day and a half. How much mortar is on those bricks? How strong are they? There it is. How much bond strength do you think there was in that house? This is the house reinstated with me project managing it. Just have a look at the brickwork and the quality of this brickwork compared to what was there. You know, you can tell at a glance how good it is, you know?
Was it the same brickies that put the next one?
No. No, absolutely not. Look at it. Needless to say, the owner was over the moon. You know, when they pulled this chimney down, there was no flashings inside, and the water was coming down just inside the chimney. You know, it was just appalling.
He wasn't out of pocket for this, was he?
The homeowner, I don't think, was out of pocket for it. I'm not sure the ins and outs of the finances. And that was the back of the house. Okay, who was the bricklayer responsible for this job? Okay, he was a licensed building practitioner who will be signing off work as compliant. Calls himself a registered master bricklayer. He was a board member of the Masonry Trades Registration Board, responsible for telling and assessing members on how they should lay bricks. Those are the people you've got in the industry. And I have to say, you know, I've been on the board of certified builders for 4 years. I was on a couple of other boards. Quality of some of those people, not great. And I know I'm probably being a little bit on the cynical side here, but I see so many people in those sorts of roles that are pretty incompetent, and they hide behind the fact that I'm secretary of the Bricklayers Association, therefore I'm an expert type approach.
So it wasn't him personally doing it, it was his workers doing it, you reckon?
Yes, but he's responsible for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that sort of covers the brick presentation that I wanted to give you, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes on a product, and I'm going to ask you to put your hands up here. Who knows what that means? Put your hand up if you know what it means. Okay, I just want to get it. I'm just doing a bit of market research here, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 10, just about 25% of the people here, okay? And of those people who put their hands up, who specified it? Good. 4. Great. It's called a high and dry bottom plate packer. I invented this product about in 2003. I invented it. It's taken me 13 years to get it to market. A bucket of money, a lot of sweat and tears. Well, you know, people think these things are easy. You're deluding yourself. We market this through the pre-cutters. That's what we want to do. We want to drive the business to pre-cutters. Carters came on board immediately with this product because they can see the huge benefits for the industry, and there are huge benefits for the industry. It's taken us about 3 years to sign placemakers up, and they've just signed up, or signing up now.
What happens when you've got that down and you've got a cavity and you are supposed to be sealing off, like you do window frames? You're not going to get the builder going around and probably sealing underneath that gap.
No.
How do they close it off?
No. the whole idea of the product is to allow air movement. It does lots of things. Okay, the very first thing I said was I invented this to solve the leaky home problem for this country. Pretty bold statement. It won't stop one house leaking, it'll just stop timber rotting in most cases, okay? And the reason it does that is because if the timber remains dry, the water can run down the timber, hits the bottom plate, drips onto the concrete, then goes outside. If the timber is saturated, it'll stop where it's saturated, and you can't even see that. That's the problem. To get back to your question, all we require, and a lot of people don't think you do, we just put it in to shut a couple of people up basically, was to put a bit of foam. We put a foam seal around the inside of the house, takes about an hour, costs about $30 to do it. So that's the Meet H1. It's got a code mark. This is a code mark product, which means we've spent a hell of a lot of money testing all sorts of tests. You know, with brands, with people like Jim, all those sort of people, testing, bracing. You can have total faith in this product. Absolutely. Companies like Feature Living would not be putting on their houses, nor would Universal Homes, and companies like that. Ryman Healthcare put it on all their buildings. These people are not idiots. They put it there for a reason. I spent 2 days going around some houses about a year ago, and I probably called on 60 houses in the space of 2 days. 40 of them looked like that. All it's doing is sucking water up, and it won't stop buildings leaking, it just stops the timber rotting. It's not just leaky buildings on the outside, it's leaky buildings on the inside. I mean, I put this on a house for an engineer in Hamilton 9 years ago. 9 years ago I put it on his house, and I went down to get a testimonial off him. And he said to me, "God, John, I'm blooming pleased I put those packers on my house." I said, "What's that?" I forget what his name was now. He said, "Well, look," he says, "I've had a leaky ensuite shower for God knows how long, and I can't figure out how to fix it. So I'm not worrying about it because it just drips onto the concrete and goes out through the brick cavity, basically." He said, "Come here," and he says, "Have a look underneath there." And here was a nail clout through his cold water feed pipe, which he hadn't fixed in 8 years and been leaking down there. There's 2 internal situations that he would have had major costs to repair those frames. And he hasn't got that. So it's more to it than just that. As I said, companies like Carter's, you just put on the pre-cut, it adds virtually nothing in the sense that it probably adds $500, but the builder would cover that cost just in the time he spends sweeping water off the floor every day at $40 an hour over the time of the contract, let alone anything else. These are some of the benefits, okay? I just mentioned to you about that. Minimal delays at pre-line, which is the way our company pushes it more as opposed to what I've just been talking about. People don't seem to understand it costs somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 a week for a delay of a build. That's things like rent. If someone's paying $700 a week rent, they're hiring heaters and dehumidifiers at $2,000 a week. Then they've got to spend 2 days straightening the frames. I had a builder, I called on a site, I was walking down with a sample to give to him. He says, "I know all about your product, mate." I said, "Oh yeah, that's good." He said, "I tell you what, we put that on every house we build." And I said, "Why is that?" Well, I knew why. I said, "Oh, that's great." And he said, "We had a house at the end of last year," and he said, "it was a big house," and he said, "We could not dry the internal frames, the bottom plates on the frames. We had heaters in there and all this sort of stuff." He said, "We ended up spending 4 days with 4 builders, and we replaced all the internal bottom plates in this house. Must have cost them $10,000. Just madness." Safer working platform. You've got no water there. The water can't build up. It just goes out over the sides. It's just a fantastic conduit for electric cables. You know, you've got. In that house I showed you the photograph, I was there 14 years. I can think of 6 occasions where I wanted to run an electric cable in that house, and I'm sure everyone in this room's been in that situation. It was a flat roof, couldn't get into the roof obviously, concrete slab. What did I want to do? I had a gas oven, I wanted to change it to an electric oven, couldn't run a bigger cable from the switchboard. Same with an aircon system, it needed a bigger cable, couldn't run it. Broken telephone line. I wanted to put extra power point in, couldn't do it. or it's more difficult to do, of course. Things like that. You know, with this system, you just take the skirting board off and run around. How many clients do you have, or do you think builders have, that they've just finished the house, or really close to finishing the house, and they come along and they say, "Oh, can we put a PowerPoint on that side of the bed?" Something like that. Well, mate, that could cost you a couple of grand because we just finished painting all this, and you know, we're going to punch holes in the walls and do all those sorts of things. With this system, you just take the skirting board off and just run it from the other on the table. Simple.
But you still have to run that foam strip or something through the bottom, otherwise you make a mockery of the having to have the insulation continuous.
You've got, in most situations, you've got carpet, underlay, which is about that thick. You've got ceramic tiles, you've got a skirting board. The foam is just an add-on, really.
Well, then why? I mean, I kind of agree with you, but this is brand. We've had a discussion on that. You know, they're going on now about having to insulate the edge of a slab. Well, it's the same kind of thing.
All this is, I mean, it's all we're talking about here is a 20 mil. We don't want to fill the hole underneath there. We just want a 20 mil strip on the inside, basically. And that's done after when you reach line. So it's not done prior to line. So it's done at that point. Adds little cost, as I said, to the build of the job. I forget what I did. I did with Housing New Zealand. I did a cost analysis, benefit analysis to them, and I'm forgetting what it added to per square metre, but it was so small it wasn't worth worrying about. It's code marked. We make it in New Zealand, okay? We're firm believers in supporting New Zealand industry. It's made in Auckland. So, all I'd like you to do is put aside 15 minutes, go to the website, there's some cards there, I'll leave some samples there of it. Just spend 15 minutes reading what's on the website. That's all I ask of you. If you had this on every house that you build, the chances of you ever getting a phone call in 10 years' time or 8 years' time to say, "Hey mate, we've got a legal letter heading your way, you're involved in a leaky home building." The chance of that happening is dramatically reduced. I'm not saying you might have a little leaky part here. It ain't going to be along like that, it's going to be easy to fix. Chances are you just won't have a problem. Okay, so that's all I'd ask of you. So what I'll do, I'll just leave some samples out there. There's a little ruler here. I bought a few of those, they're really good. High and dry. I had those made in England, so they're really good quality. You can take one of those. I'll leave these cards, take one of those cards in one of those bags. Actually change the colour to blue. Okay, when the throws are doing that, and that's just a marketing ploy so it gets more noticeable. Alright, and if you want a brick book, you can come up and see me. It's $25 cash or $30 on a credit card, and just fill out the details there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, John.
Oh, God.
Taking a bit of appreciation.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks guys.